Did you hear what I was playing, Lane?
I didn't think it polite to listen, sir.
I'm sorry for that. For your sake.
I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately. I play with a wonderful expression. As far as the piano is concerned, sentiment is my forte. I keep science for life.
Yes, sir.
And speaking of the science of life, did you cut the cucumber sandwiches for Lady Bracknell?
Yes, sir.
Oh, and by the way, Lane, I see from your books that on last Thursday, when Lord Shorman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me, 8 bottles of champagne are recorded as having been consumed?
Yes, sir. 8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it, Lane, that at a bachelor's establishment, the servants invariably drink the champagne?
I attribute it to the superior quality of the wine, sir. I have often observed that in married households, the champagne is rarely of a first-rate brand.
Good heavens! Is marriage so demoralizing as all that?
I believe it is a very pleasant state, sir. I have had very little experience of it myself up to the present. I have only been married once, and that was in consequence of a misunderstanding between myself and a young person.
I'm not sure that I'm much interested in your family life, Lane.
No, sir. It is not a very interesting subject. I never really think of it myself.
Quite natural, I'm sure. That will be all, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lane's views on marriage seem somewhat lax. Really, if the lower orders don't set us a good example, what is the use of them? They seem as a class to have absolutely no moral responsibility.
Mr. Ernest Worthing.
My dear Earnest, what brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring anyone anywhere? Eating as usual, I see, Algie.
I believe it's customary in polite society to have some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday?
In the country.
What on earth do you do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses others. It is excessively boring.
But who are the people you amuse?
Neighbors.
Got nice neighbors in your part of Shropshire?
Perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them.
I'm sure you amuse them immensely. By the way, Shropshire is your county, isn't it?
Shropshire? Oh, of course. Hello. Why all these cups? Why the cucumber sandwiches? Why such extravagance on one so young? Who is coming to tea?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolen.
How perfectly delightful.
Yes, though I'm not quite sure Aunt Augusta will approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
My dear boy, the way you flirt with Gwendolen is perfectly horrid. It's almost as bad as the way Gwendolen flirts with you.
I have come up to town expressly to propose to her today.
I thought you'd come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
I don't see anything romantic about a definite proposal. It's very romantic to be in love, but there's nothing romantic about proposing. Why, one may be accepted. One usually is, I believe. Then the excitement's all over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever get married, I shall certainly try to forget the fact.
I've no doubts about that, dear Algie. The divorce court was invented specially for people whose minds are so curiously constituted.
There's no use speculating on the subject, dear boy. Divorces are made in heaven. Please don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. I ordered them specially for Aunt Augusta.
But you have been eating them all this time.
Have some bread and butter. The bread and butter's for Gwendolen. Gwendolen is devoted to bread and butter.
And very good bread and butter it is, too.
Well, you needn't eat as if you were going to eat at all. You act as if you were married to her already. You're not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be.
Why on earth would you say that?
Well, in the first place, girls don't marry the men they flirt with. Girls don't think it right.
Oh, that is nonsense.
It isn't. It explains the extraordinary number of bachelors one sees all over the place. And in the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent.
My dear boy, Gwendolyn is my first cousin, and before I allow you to marry her, you shall have to clear up the whole matter of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean, Algy? By Cecily? I don't know anyone of the name of Cecily.
Bring me that cigarette case Mr. Worthing left when he dined with us last.
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say you've had my cigarette case this whole time? I wish to goodness you had let me know. I was writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I was very nearly offering a large reward.
Well, I wish you would, dear boy. I happen to be more than usually hard up.
There's no use offering a reward now that the thing is found.
That's very mean of you, Ernest, I must say. But it makes no matter, for now that I look at it, I see that it isn't yours after all.
Of course it's mine. You've seen me with it 100 times, and you've no right to read what is written on the inside. It's a very ungentlemanly thing to read a private cigarette case.
It's absurd to have a hard and fast rule about what one should read and what one shouldn't. More than half of modern culture is composed of things one should not read.
I am quite aware of the fact. However, I do not propose to discuss modern culture. It is not the sort of thing one should discuss in private. Just give me back my cigarette case.
But it isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case was given as a gift by someone called Cecily, and you said you didn't know anyone by that name.
Very well. If you must know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, and a charming lady she is too. Lives at Tunbridge Wells. Just give it back to me, Algy.
Yes, but if this Cecily is your aunt who lives at Tunbridge Wells, why does she call herself Little? From Little Cecily with her fondest love.
My dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some aunts are tall, and some aunts are not tall. I think it's clearly something the aunt should be able to decide for herself. You seem to think every aunt should be like yours. Now that is absurd. And for heaven's sake, give me back my cigarette case.
Yes, but why does your aunt, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, call you her uncle? From little Cecily with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. There's no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt, but an aunt, whatever her size may be, why she should call her own nephew her uncle, I can't quite make out. And besides, your name isn't Jack at all. It's Ernest.
It isn't Ernest. It's Jack.
You always told me your name was Ernest. I've introduced you to everyone as Ernest. You look as if your name were Ernest, and you are the most earnest-looking person I know. It's absurd you're saying that your name isn't Ernest. It's on your card here. Mr. Ernest Worthing, B for the Albany. I shall keep this, in case you ever try to deny that your name is Ernest to me, or to Gwendolyn, or to anyone else.
Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country. And that cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not explain why your small Aunt Cecily, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, calls you her uncle. Come, old boy, you'd best have the whole matter out at once.
My dear fellow, you talk exactly as if you were a dentist. It's very vulgar to talk like a dentist when one isn't. It produces a false impression.
Well, that's what dentists always do. Now go on. why are you called Ernest in town and Jack in the country? I may say I've always suspected you of being a confirmed and secret Bumbriist, and I'm quite sure of it now.
Bumbriist? What on earth do you mean by a Bumbriist?
I shall reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you reveal to me why you are called Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Here you are. Now produce your explanation, and do make it improbable.
My dear fellow, there's nothing improbable about my explanation at all. In fact, it's perfectly ordinary. The old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me, in his will, guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle, out of motives of respect you couldn't possibly understand, lives at my place in the country, under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Where is that place in the country, by the way?
That is nothing to you, dear boy. You are not going to be invited. And I'm going to tell you quite frankly, it is not in Shropshire.
I thought as much. I've bumbried all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now go on. Why are you called Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear Algy, I don't know whether you'll be able to understand my true motives. You're hardly serious enough. When one is placed in the position of guardian, one has to adopt a high moral tone on all subjects. And seeing as a high moral tone cannot be said much to conduce to either one's health or happiness, I have always pretended to have a younger brother by the name of Earnest, who gets into the most dreadful scrapes. That, my dear Algy, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
The truth is rarely pure and never simple. If it were either, modern life would be very tedious, and modern literature a complete impossibility.
Well, that wouldn't at all be a bad thing.
Literary criticism is not your forte, dear boy. Don't try it. Leave that to those who have not been at the universities. They do it so well at the morning papers. Now, what you really are is a Bumbriist. I always thought you were a Bumbriist. You are one of the most advanced Bumbriists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a very useful younger brother called Earnest, in order that you may come up to town as often as you like. I have invented an invaluable permanent invalid called Bumbry, in order that I may go down to the country as often as I like. Bumbry is perfectly invaluable. In fact, if it weren't for Bumbry, I wouldn't be able to dine with you at Willis's tonight, for I have, in fact, been engaged with Aunt Augusta for more than a week.
I haven't asked you to dine with me anywhere tonight.
Yes, you are absurdly careless about sending invitations. Nothing annoys one so much as not receiving invitations.
You had much better dine with your Aunt Augusta.
I haven't the slightest intention of doing anything of the kind. In the first place, I dine there on Monday, and it is quite enough to dine with one's own relations once a week. In the second place, whenever I do go there, I am always treated as a member of the family, and am sent down with no woman at all, or 2. And in the third place, I know exactly who Aunt Augusta shall seat me next to tonight. She will seat me next to Mary Farquhar, who always flirts with her own husband across the table. That is not very pleasant. In fact, it isn't even decent. And that sort of thing is incredibly on the increase. The amount of women who flirt with their own husbands is perfectly scandalous. It looks so bad. It's merely washing one's clean linen in public. And now that I know that you are a Bumbriist, I naturally want to talk to you about bumbring. I want to tell you the rules.
I'm not a Bumbriist at all. If Gwendolyn accepts me, I'll kill my brother. In fact, I think I may kill him in any case. Cecily is far too much interested in him. It's rather a bore, So I'm going to get rid of my brother. And I suggest you do the same with this Mr. whatever your invalid friend with the strange name is.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. And if you ever get married, which seems to me extremely problematic, you will very much want to know Bunbury. A man who marries without knowing Bunbury has a very tedious time of it.
Oh, that is nonsense. If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, who's the only girl I've ever cared for in my entire life, I most certainly won't want to know any Bunbury.
Then your wife will. You don't seem to realize that in married life, 3 is company, but 2 is none.
That, my dear young friend, is what the corrupt French drama has been propounding for the last 50 years.
Yes, and the happy English home has proved in half the time.
For heaven's sake, don't be cynical. It's perfectly easy to be cynical.
It isn't easy to be anything nowadays. There's such beastly competition about. That must be Aunt Augusta. Only relatives or creditors ever ring in that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I get Aunt Augusta out of your way for 10 minutes, will you allow me to dine with you at Willis's tonight?
I suppose so, if you want to.
Yes, but you must be serious about it. I hate people who are not serious about meals. It's so shallow of them.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you are behaving very well.
I am feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
That's not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together.
Dear me, you're smart.
I am always smart. Am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You're quite perfect.
Oh, I hope I am not that. That would leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry if we are a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I hadn't been there since her poor husband's death. I never saw a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And now I think I'll have a cup of tea, and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Won't you come and sit here, Gwendolyn?
Thanks, Mamma. I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Lane, why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir. I went down twice.
No cucumbers?
No, sir. Not even for ready money.
That will be all, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I am very distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers. Not even for ready money.
It really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now.
I hear her hair has turned quite gold from grief.
It certainly has changed its color. From what cause I, of course, cannot say. I've quite a treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farquhar. She is such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband. It's delightful to watch them.
I'm afraid I shall have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight, Aunt Augusta.
I hope not, Algernon. It would put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he is accustomed to that.
It is a great bore, and I need hardly say a terrible inconvenience. But I've just received a telegram that my dear friend Bunbury is very ill again. They think I should be with him.
It is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to have curiously bad health.
Yes, Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I must say, Algernon, that I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he was going to live or die. This shilly-shallying with the question is absurd. Nor do I in any way approve of the modern sympathy with invalids. I consider it morbid. Illness of any kind should never be encouraged in others. Health is the primary duty in life. I am always telling that to your poor uncle, but he never seems to take much notice as far as any improvement in his ailment goes. I would be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me to be kind enough not to have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music. It is my last reception, and one wants something that will encourage conversation, particularly at the end of the season when everyone has said practically whatever they had to say, which in most cases was probably not much.
I will talk to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he is still conscious. And I think I can assure you he will be all right by Saturday. The music, on the other hand, is a great difficulty. You see, if one plays good music, then people don't listen. But if one plays bad music, then people don't talk. But I will look over the program I've drawn up, if you'll just step into the next room with me for a moment.
Thank you, Algernon. It is very thoughtful of you. I am sure the program will be delightful after a few expurgations. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to think that they are indecent, and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds a thoroughly respectable language, and I believe is so. Gwendolen, you will accompany me.
Certainly, Mamma.
Charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite sure they mean something else. And that makes me nervous.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I'm never wrong.
I would like to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mamma has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I've often had to speak to her about.
Gwendolen, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I've ever met since I met you.
Yes, I'm well aware of the fact. And I often wish that, in public at any rate, you had been more demonstrative. For me, you've always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. The fact is constantly mentioned in the more expensive monthly magazines, and has reached the provincial pulpits, I am told. And my ideal has always been to love someone by the name of Earnest. There's something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. The moment Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You truly love me, Gwendolen?
Passionately.
Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Earnest.
But you don't mean to say you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Earnest.
But your name is Earnest.
Yes, I know it is. But supposing it were something else, are you saying that you could not love me then?
That is clearly a metaphysical speculation. And like most metaphysical speculations, has very little reference at all to the actual facts of real life as we know them.
Personally, darling, I don't much care for the name of Earnest. I don't think it suits me.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Well, really, Gwendolen, I must say, I think there are many much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, a charming name.
Jack? No. There's very little music in the name Jack, if any at all, indeed. It does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I have known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, have been more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is a notorious domesticity for John, and I pity any woman who is married to a man called John. She would probably never be allowed to know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. No, the only really safe name is Earnest.
Gwendolen, I must be christened at once. I mean, we must be married at once. There's no time to be lost.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Well, you know that I love you, and had led me to believe you were not entirely indifferent to me.
I adore you. But you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject has not even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I certainly think it an admirable opportunity. And to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I think it is only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I am fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolyn,
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
you know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course I will, darling. How long you have been about it. I'm afraid you have very little experience in how to propose.
My own one. I have never loved anyone in the world but you.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. What wonderfully blue eyes you have, Ernest. They are quite blue. I hope you will always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people present.
Mr. Worthing, rise, sir, from this semi-recumbent posture. It is most indecorous.
Mamma, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing has not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Pardon me, you are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, I, or your father, should his health permit him, will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come on a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant as the case may be. This is not a matter that she may be allowed to arrange for herself. And now I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. While I'm making these inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mamma!
In the carriage, Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn! The carriage!
Yes, Mamma.
You may take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thanks, but I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men, although I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Bolton has. We work together, in fact. However, I'm quite prepared to enter your name, should your answers prove to be what a really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I admit I do smoke.
I'm glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. I have always been of opinion that a man who desires to get married should either know everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with the natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. Touch it, and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in London at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes, and probably lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or investments?
Investments chiefly.
That is satisfactory. What between the duties expected of one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted from one after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. That is all that can be said about land.
I do own a country house with some land attached to it, of course. About 1,500 acres. But I don't rely on that for my main source of income. In fact, the poachers are the only ones who make anything of it.
You have a country house. How many bedrooms? Well, that point can be cleared up later. You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolyn could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
I own a house in Belgrave Square. However, it is let by the year to Lady Bloxham. I can get it back whenever I like, at 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? I don't know her.
She gets out very little. She's a lady considerably advanced in years.
Nowadays, that is no guarantee of respectability of character. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable side. I knew there was something. However, that could easily be altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both, if necessary, I presume. What are your politics?
Well, I'm afraid I really have none. I am a liberal unionist.
Oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us, or come in the evening at any rate. And now to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I have lost both of my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthy, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who is your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers call the purple of commerce? Or did he rise through the ranks of the aristocracy?
I'm afraid I really don't know. The fact is, Lady Bracknell, I told you that I had lost my parents. It would be nearer to the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I don't know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, a man of kind and charitable disposition, found me when I was a boy and gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket to Worthing in his pocket. Worthing is in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
Where did this charitable gentleman with a first-class ticket to a seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag.
Yes, Lady Bracknell, a large, red, ordinary handbag with handles on it.
In what particular locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
The cloakroom at Victoria Station.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station?
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, I confess I feel somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to show a contempt for the ordinary decency of family life, which reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to? As to the particular locality in which this ordinary handbag was found, a cloakroom at a railway station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion, has probably indeed been used for that very purpose before now, and could hardly be an assured basis for a good, recognized position in good society.
Then would you tell me what you would advise me to do? I need hardly say I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce at any rate one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
I don't see how I could possibly manage that. I could produce the handbag at any moment. It is in my dressing room at home. I really think that should please you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What does it have to do with me? You can hardly expect that Lord Bracknell and I would allow our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good day, Mr. Worthy.
Good day. For goodness sake, Algie, don't play that ghastly tune. How idiotic you are.
Didn't it go off all right, old boy? You don't mean to say that Gwendolyn refused you? I know it's a way she has. She is always refusing people. I think it most ill-natured of her.
Oh, Gwendolyn is as right as a trivet. As far as she's concerned, we are engaged. Her mother is perfectly unbearable. I never met such a gorgon. I really don't know what a gorgon is like. However, I'm quite sure she is one. At any rate, she is a monster without being a myth, which is rather unfair. I beg your pardon. I suppose I should not talk of your aunt in this way before you.
My dear boy, I love hearing my relations abused. In fact, it's the only thing that makes me put up with them at all. Relations are a tedious pack of people who haven't the slightest notion of how to live, nor the smallest instinct of when to die.
That is nonsense.
It isn't.
Upon my word, if I thought that, I'd shoot myself. You don't think that Gwendolyn would ever become like her mother in 150 years, do you?
Women always become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. Men never do. That's theirs.
Is that clever?
It is perfectly phrased, and quite as true as any observation in modern life should be.
I am sick to death of cleverness. Everyone is clever nowadays. You can't go anywhere without meeting clever people. It's become an absolute public nuisance. I wish to goodness we had a few fools left.
Oh, we have.
I should like to meet them. What do they talk of?
The fools? Oh, the clever people, of course.
What fools?
By the way, did you tell Gwendolyn that whole business of you being Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, there are certain things that one does not tell to a simple, refined girl. What interesting ideas you have on how to talk to a woman.
The only way to talk to a woman is to flirt with her, if she is pretty, and with someone else if she is plain.
Well, that is nonsense.
What about your brother, the profligate Earnest?
Oh, before the end of the week, I shall have got rid of him. I'll say he died in Paris of apoplexy. Many people die of apoplexy quite suddenly, don't they?
Yes, but it's hereditary, dear boy. The sort of thing that runs in the family. You'd much better say a severe chill.
And you are sure a severe chill is not hereditary or anything of the kind?
Of course it isn't.
Very well. My brother Ernest, to be carried off in Paris by a severe chill. That gets rid of him.
But didn't you say that your ward Cecily was a little too much interested in this Ernest?
Oh, that is quite all right. She is not the silly romantic girl, I am glad to say. She has a capital appetite, goes on long walks, and pays absolutely no attention to her lessons.
I would very much like to meet this Cecily.
I shall take very good care that you never do. She's excessively pretty and only just 18.
Does Gwendolyn know that you have an excessively pretty ward who's only just 18?
My dear fellow, one does not blurt these things out. Gwendolyn and Cecily are sure to be the best of friends, and I'll bet you anything you like that within half an hour of their knowing each other, they'll be calling each other sister.
Women only do that after they've called each other a lot of other things first. Now, if we want to get a good table at Willis's, we really must go up and change. Do you know it's nearly 7?
Oh, it is always nearly 7.
Well, I'm hungry.
I never knew you when you weren't.
What shall we do after dinner? Go to the theater?
Oh no, I loathe listening.
Well, we could go to the club.
Oh no, I hate talking.
Well, we could trot round to the Empire at 10.
I can't bear looking at things. It is so silly.
Well, what should we do?
Nothing.
It is very hard work doing nothing. Though, I don't mind hard work when there's no definite object.
Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolyn, upon my word.
Algy, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Gwendolyn, I'm not sure I can allow this at all.
Algy, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude towards life. You are not quite old enough to do that.
My own darling.
Ernest, I fear we may never be married. From the expression on Mamma's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any attention to what their children say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Whatever influence I had over Mamma, I lost at the age of 3. But although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else, and marry often, nothing she can possibly do can alter my eternal devotion to you.
Dear Gwendolyn,
The story of your romantic origin, as related to me by Mamma, with unpleasing comments, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name still has an irresistible fascination. The simplicity of your character makes you exquisitely incomprehensible to me. Your town address at the Albany I have. What is your address in the country?
the Manor House, Woolton, Hertfordshire.
There's a good postal service, I suppose? It may be necessary to do something desperate. That, of course, will require serious consideration. I will communicate with you daily.
My own one.
How long do you remain in town?
Till Monday.
Good. Algie, you may turn round now.
Oh, I've quite turned round already.
You may also ring the bell.
You will let me see you out, my own one.
Certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
A glass of sherry, Lane.
Yes, sir.
I'm going bumburying, Lane.
Yes, sir.
You can hang up my dress clothes, the smoking jacket, and all the Bunbury suits.
Yes, sir.
I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane.
It never quite is, sir.
Lane, you are a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
There is a sensible, intellectual girl. The only one I've ever cared for in my life. What on earth are you so amused at?
Oh, I'm just a little worried about poor Bunbury, that's all.
If you are not careful, your friend Bunbury is going to get you into a serious scrape someday.
I love scrapes. They're the only things that are never serious.
Oh, that is nonsense. You never speak anything but nonsense.
No one ever does.